Once a rare feature on fursuits, 3D or following eyes are now considered the standard. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create inexpensive, seamless 3D fursuit eyes. The secret to this method is the plastic we use for the sclera of the eye. These eyes are created with a plastic bowl, the kind you use when doing arts and crafts in school. I buy mine from dickblick.com, and they are listed as plastic water cups. I suggest buying a bunch. I usually buy 20 at a time. 1, because they're super cheap, and if you don't buy a bunch, you're going to spend more on shipping than the actual plastic. And 2, some of these bowls have very deep scratches in them. You can still use these bowls by positioning the scratches at the top so they are hidden in the final eye. But if you're only making 1 or 2 fursuits, it's nice to be able to pick the plastic with the least amount of flaws. Do you have a character that has colored sclera? You can paint these plastic bowls. I painted this eye with an acrylic paint, and I sealed it with Mod Podge. The paint job on this is rough because I plan to remove the paint later, but even after soaking the blank in rubbing alcohol, the paint just won't come off. But before we paint or assemble our eye, we need to cut the plastic. You'll want a rotary tool for this part. The bits we're using, a sanding drum and a cutoff wheel, should come standard in even the cheapest kit. However, I do suggest buying a metal wheel, as the ones that come standard will break off in your plastic, and it's very scary. Speaking of, you will also want a pair of safety glasses, ideally with side shields. You don't want hot plastic or cutting tool shrapnel in your eyes. Once you have your rotary tool, insert the cutting wheel and cut off the bottom of the plastic bowl. Leaving a little plastic on the bottom will make it easier to attach the eye mesh later, but I like to remove as much plastic as possible to allow for the largest viewing area. Personal preference. I really hate using the cutting tool, so I tend to do a really rough cut on this stage. I just want to remove as much plastic as possible, as soon as possible. Once most of the bottom of the cup is gone, switch to the sanding drum and clean things up. This bit won't explode into your eyes, but it will throw a lot of hot plastic, so keep the safety glasses on. I like to sand from the inside of the cup, or what will be the viewable area of the fursuit eye. If you sand from the back and your hand slips, you can end up damaging the cup, which means starting all over. If I slip from the front, I only end up sanding the air. Once the bottom of our cups are removed, we need to do a little more cleanup. You can pull off the large pieces of plastic with your hands, clean up the shape with a coarse grit sandpaper, and finally smooth everything out with a fine grit sandpaper. The larger the number, the finer the grit of sandpaper. You also want to sand the outside of your cups with coarse grit sandpaper. This will help our glue adhere when it comes time for installation. These cups have little bumps on top, and I also smooth those down. And that's the sclera of our eyes complete. Let's assemble. I'm not going to go into the painting process for the eye mesh in this tutorial, but I do have another video on this channel that covers that topic, so check it out if you need help in that area. Once you have painted or printed your eye mesh, place the plastic on top and position it so that the pupil is centered. You might have to separate your eyes if you're like me and tried to save some space. Because we cut these eye blanks by hand, the opening might not be a perfect circle. That's okay. The slight imperfection is noticeable now because of how open our eye is, but once we add the eyelid and install it into the head, it'll be near invisible. Don't let a desire for perfection get in the way of your finished fursuit. Add a small tack of hot glue to keep the mesh in place. I do this in 2 spots in opposite corners. Check the placement. Is it correct? If not, you can pull the mesh free and try again. You can see that a little bit of paint came off here. This falls outside of the eye, so I don't need to repaint it. If you have to repaint a part of your eye mesh that will be visible, make sure to go back and add a sealant on top. When you're satisfied with the placement and positioning, go back and add hot glue around the entire base of the eye. You don't need to press the nozzle tip directly into the crevice, and you don't need to use a ton of hot glue. Doing so could cause the glue to leak under the plastic and into your eye. We just want to make sure that the glue is touching the plastic and the mesh. Hot glue is a plastic itself, so once dry, the adhesion will be strong. A little will do. Once the hot glue has dried, you can cut off the excess mesh. Avoid cutting into the hot glue, as that will harm the integrity of our eyes. Once complete, you should have this little lip around the base of the eye. I like to line the head before I glue in the eyes. This makes it so that no foam is visible from the inside of the head. Add a ring of hot glue around the eye opening of your foam base and place the eye on top. That little lip of mesh that we left when cutting off the excess, that's where the hot glue will attach. Now that our eyes are in the head, we need to fill in the little gaps so that things are smooth for our eyelids. This is a great time to use little bits of scrap foam. Now for the 3D effect. The illusion is produced by decreasing the amount of eye that is visible from the outside, so when the head is viewed from different angles, it appears that the eyes are following you as more eye comes into view. Let's add the eyelids. I like to use cardstock for this step. Shout out to LaCroix enjoyers. I first trace the plastic so I know the general size I need to make my eyelid. We want to make sure that the eyelids cover the flat rim of the plastic bowl. If your eyelid shape is too large or just not to your liking, you can make another using the previous as a jumping off point. These eyelids will be a permanent part of your fursuit head. If you create angry eyelids at this step, your fursuit head will always look angry. You can create changeable eyelids using this method, but that's a different tutorial. So please subscribe so you don't miss it. Now that we have a template for our eyelids, we can cut them out of our final material. I use felt, and you can find this material by using the search term stiff felt. It usually comes in a package of multiple sheets. Just like when we attach the mesh to the plastic, I find it's best to first only attach the eyelid in 2 corners. Once you confirm that the eyelids are placed in a way that you like, lift the felt, apply hot glue, and hold until cool. Hot glue will hold to foam around the eye more than it will the plastic, so that's why I suggest cutting an eyelid with a large border. I make little snips around the felt so that it will bend with the shape of my fursuit head. And before we go, you might be wondering about the durability of this method. I wasn't happy with the paint job on these eyes, so let's remove the mesh. I had to cut the glue on this eye before there was enough give for me to remove the mesh. The other eye was easier. But let's assume that both of these pieces of mesh were very easy to remove. In order to remove the mesh from the plastic, you need to get one hand on the mesh, one hand on the plastic, and pull in opposite directions. This cannot happen by accident. A fursuit ear might come loose because you just don't think about it. The ear is just a nice place to grab your fursuit head. But with these eyes, once the head is lined, once the eyelids are on, there's just no easy handhold. These eyes will only come apart through intentional damage. And that's it. You now have inexpensive and seamless 3D eyes. Thanks for watching.